One, two, three, audio testing. One, two, three, audio testing. Today is April 16th, 2021. Today we are going to begin a new lesson. Its name is A Hot Lead. And well, this is our 5th out of 12 Pearson platform classes. So let's give 5 more minutes so that your classmate. One, two, three, audio testing. One, two, three, audio. So Sharai, how are you?
Good afternoon, teacher. I'm fine, thank you.
Perfect. Do you have any questions about your presentation?
No.
Perfect. Perfect. So Melissa just told me that one of your classmates, I think he quit the course, or maybe he moved to another course or something like that. Bottom line is that on the class, it's just going to be my 3 ladies. That'll be you. Well, you should go up at the end. So it's going to be Melissa, Lourdes, and yourself. So let's wait for Lourdes. And Melissa is not going to be able to be with us today. She just sent me a message. So no big deal. She can catch up. She can catch on the YouTube class. So maybe 2 more minutes, okay?
Okay, teacher, no problem.
Thank you.
teacher.
Yes, Shara?
I have a question, teacher. The activities is until what day it's going to be able to do the activities? Until tomorrow?
It was basically today, but since Melissa just joined, I I changed the due date till, if I am not mistaken, April 20th.
And the quiz, it's the same or not?
I gave 3 days for the quiz. It was yesterday, today, or tomorrow.
Ah, okay. I was confusing about that. So
Yes.
thank you. So
Yes.
tomorrow I can do the quiz, right?
Yes. Remember, once you start your quiz, there is a timer, a 15-minute timer.
Yes. Okay, teacher. Thank you.
By the way, Melissa told me that that the quiz was sent twice, basically. So as a recommendation, I would like you to select only the integrated quiz. Okay, for example, as you can see on your screen, and this is also for Lourdes, and I appreciate Melissa for letting me know that when I assign the quiz, I should only pick, I should not do this. For example, this is what I did, and well, it's basically sending the quiz twice, since the only thing I have to do is the following: click on integrated skills. That's basically the same as listening, vocabulary, speaking, grammar, pronunciation, and reading. So it's basically the same, but it's the only difference is just that it's the entire quiz and not by section. So whenever you do your quiz, only do the integrated skills, which is all of the above. Okay, Shara?
Okay, teacher.
Good. Now I will give you two options. Option one, we can do it. Um, we can do half of today's unit, meaning that since Lourdes is not going to connect and Melissa just sent me a message that she will not be able to connect, either you can be the only student to respond, or option B, I can pre-record my class with explanations and going over the grammatical skills and the vocabulary and the instructions, and perhaps you can watch the class during the weekend, and well, I will only activate about, let me see, I will only activate about the following skills: the video listening, vocabulary, and from the grammar aspect, we have 3 grammatical explanations. One of them is, in your case, it was so I'm still on number 1. There you go. So on our second lesson, the grammatical aspects that we are going to go over is, if I am not mistaken, is passive voice, which is a condition. Okay, so this is what I am going to explain today: the passive and the quantifiers, a lot of, a few, a little, many, and much. And well, so you have 2 options, since you are the only student, and it seems like it's not methodologically correct to not have your other classmates and go over go over this lesson as a group and participate as a group so we can learn from our peers. So how do you feel and what will your decision be? To watch the class later or to go ahead and do half of the lesson with the teacher today?
I think to watch the class later.
Okay, perfect. I agree. I
In
agree.
that, okay, in that case, so we finish the class for today, no? So
Exactly. Well, you can log off and I will explain today's lesson and the aspects that I mentioned. That way, the class will be ready in about an hour, okay?
okay, teacher.
Perfect.
So if my classmate Lourdes will log in the Zoom, so you can tell me maybe to log in to log in.
Okay,
in
yes, only if she connects, maybe I can send you a message, but I doubt it since she's not online. So I'll let you know. For the moment, it's option B. I will pre-record the class and you can take your time to watch it later and do the activities for the following. I'll give 4 days, okay? I'll give a due date till next Friday. That'll be a good idea, correct?
Okay, teacher, no
Good.
problem.
Okay, so the activities that appear or that are going to be activated, those are the activities that you should start doing, but the due date is basically next week. So I will do it differently this week since I am only going to activate the activities daily and I am not going to activate the whole entire unit as I did it on our first week, our first unit. So, my dear Shari, the only thing I'm going to ask you is to answer today's poll. That way I can have my evidence and then you can feel free. Then you can feel free to go ahead and do other errands, other activities that you feel are primary for the moment.
Okay, teacher. So
Thank
thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much and see you Monday.
Okay, have a great weekend, Shara.
You too.
Bye bye. Okay, so today is a special class since my three students, two of them were not able to connect to be live. And my other student, Sharai, we came to the conclusion that she can watch this class in the following days. That way she can well understand the grammatical explanations and the activities, the instructions. So that's the conclusion we came up with. Perhaps she can take today's time to work on her presentations or other errand, or she can do other errands or primary activities that she may have. So today, I guess it's going to be faster since we are not going to have the chance to work as a group, to answer activities as a group. So the teacher will only explain the learning objectives and the unit summary. I will also concentrate on the listening activities and perhaps 2 out of the 3 grammar explanations for this unit. Other than that, vocabulary, it's also a skill that we are going to, well, that I will explain, and then you will be able to do those 2 activities. So for the moment, let's begin by going over this grammatical aspect about the passive. Okay, so when do we use the passive? Why do we use it? And what's the difference with the active voice? For this first explanation, I have an extra video, which is extra material that I found it to be visually attractive. And I think by watching this video, we can have a better idea about the passive voice. Okay, so let's watch this video about passive voice.
Jerry, this is the 3rd time you've been late this week. You were needed in that meeting today. Fortunately, the deal was done, but it almost didn't happen.
I'm really sorry, but I was stuck in traffic. My car was sitting in the same spot for 30 minutes.
If you're getting stuck in traffic every day, then you should leave the house earlier.
I know, but that isn't the problem. Today was the first time that I was stuck in traffic. And it wasn't normal rush hour traffic either.
What do you mean?
Today, traffic was stopped by a zebra.
A zebra.
Yeah, I saw it. The zebra walked right in front of my car. It was almost hit by another car. Other animals were seen on the freeway too. It was crazy.
You expect me to believe that you were delayed by a zebra?
It's true. It was talked about on the radio. You should listen to the report. It is thought that the animals escaped from the zoo.
I'm going to have to check out your story. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for now. But what about yesterday? You were an hour late.
Yesterday, I was driving to work when my car was stopped by a policeman. I was pulled over, and the policeman told me I was under arrest.
Really? Why?
The policeman said that my car had been seen at the scene of a crime.
It sounds like you're making up stories. Did that really happen?
It's all true. When I was pulled over, the policeman asked me to get out of the car. My hands were handcuffed behind my back. He said that my car had been seen on the camera of a gas station that had been robbed.
Well, you made it to work somehow. How did you get away?
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire,
The policeman got a call on his radio saying that the robbers had been caught by another policeman. They were being held in custody. The policeman let me go, but half an hour had already passed. I drove to work as quickly as I could.
Well, if that's true, then I understand. But what about Monday? I remember you coming in late then, too.
That was because my car was stolen. I woke up Monday morning and my car was gone. The police were notified immediately. I was forced to drive my wife's car and drop her off at her workplace, which took some extra time.
I see. Why didn't you tell me?
It wasn't a big deal at the time. My car was found by the police a few hours later, and I was only 15 minutes late to work.
Okay, but try to be on time from now on. I need to be able to rely on you, especially for meetings like the one we had today.
I promised to try to be on time, but I need you to understand that none of these things were my fault. I mean, I was held up by a zebra. How could I have predicted that? These things happened to me, and there was nothing I could do to avoid them.
Yes, I agree, if your stories are true. But come on, they're a little unbelievable.
Well, they're true. I hope you won't hold them against me.
And this just in. The men who had been robbing the gas stations in the area have been arrested by the police. They had stolen the car of a local man, but they were forced to go on foot once the stolen vehicle was found by the police. The robbed cash hasn't been recovered yet. The robbers are now being questioned by the police. It is hoped that the money will be finally recovered from them. More details will be provided soon.
So his story was true.
And earlier today, some animals escaped from the zoo. One of the animal feeders had a seizure right when they were opening the animal cages. And the animals were released from their cages by mistake. The animals were recaptured by the zoo, and they were put back into their cages. The animal feeder is now being treated in the hospital after collapsing in the zoo.
I'm going to call him right now.
Hello?
Hi, Jerry. It's Carlos. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I just watched the news. They were talking about how a car was stolen and how the animals were accidentally released. I want you to know that I trust you and feel like I can rely on you.
Thanks. I appreciate you saying that.
And Jerry,
Yeah?
in the future, I must be notified immediately when something happens to you.
Sure. I will notify you immediately from now on.
We use the passive voice when the action is more important than the person who does it. We form the passive voice with the verb to be plus past participle.
My car was stolen.
The object of the active sentence becomes the subject in the passive sentence. The subject of the active sentence becomes the agent. A zebra stopped the traffic. The traffic was stopped by a zebra.
People think that the animals escaped from the zoo. It is thought that the animals escaped from the zoo.
The doctors are treating the animal feeder in the hospital. The animal feeder is being treated in the hospital. The police have arrested the robbers. The robbers have been arrested by the police.
We needed you in that meeting today. You were needed in that meeting today.
The police were holding the robbers in custody. The robbers were being held in custody by the police. He said that the police had seen my car on the camera of a gas station. He said that my car had been seen on the camera of a gas station.
We'll provide more details soon. More details will be provided soon.
You must notify me immediately when something happens to you. I must be notified immediately when something happens to you.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Two of my friends tried to learn English. One was named Dennis and one was named Pasha. Dennis knew about 2,000 words in English. He knew lots of rules and he studied lots of English books. Pasha knew about 200 words in English.
Okay, so going back to the passive voice, what is basically the idea? What is meant, or why do we change from active to passive? What's the difference between Juan stole the car and the car was stolen by Juan? On the passive voice, I am giving the car. The car is basically more important. I want to mark out that, okay, Juan did it, but what was stolen? The car was stolen by Juan, so importance is given, okay, to the other manner, okay? As you heard on the video, the object becomes the subject. So let's continue with this explanation.
Hi. You know, the personal computer was invented only about 25 years ago. Amazing. Now it's used for almost everything, especially now that we have the internet. Was invented, is used, and are taught are examples of the passive. Let's take a look at this verb form. We form the passive with a form of be plus the past participle of the verb.
Nick was tricked.
The juice bar is managed by Patty. The iced tea is made fresh every day.
An active sentence focuses on the agent, the doer, of an action. A passive sentence focuses on the receiver of an action. Look at this active sentence. Someone tricked Nick. In the example, someone is the agent and Nick is the receiver of the action, the object. If we want to focus on Nick, we use a passive sentence.
Nick was tricked.
Notice that the object of the active sentence, Nick, becomes the subject of the passive sentence. Notice, too, that the subject, Nick, must agree with the verb, was. We often use the passive when we don't know who the agent is.
The audio file was edited.
In the example, Talia doesn't know who edited the audio file. We can also use the passive when it's clear who the agent is, so we don't need to say it.
The news is reported on several channels.
In the example, we know that reporters report the news, so we don't need to mention the agent. We can also use the passive when we don't want to say who the agent is.
Too many mistakes were made in that report.
In the example, Tony doesn't want to say who made the mistakes. Sometimes, the name of the agent is important information that we need in a sentence. If we want to say the name of the agent, we use by.
Nick was tricked by Jackie Baker.
The story was reported by John Donnelly.
Okay, so after this explanation, my students will have to do the following 3 activities that deal with the condition with a passive voice. Okay, so on this first activity, it's basically a multiple choice in which you have a 50% of getting it correct, but since it is an easy topic that has been explained, I believe perfection will be achieved. So these are the 3 activities that my students will have to do in the following 6 days, since a unit lasts a week. So they can take their time and they can decide when to do it. I will also take a snapshot at the end of the class to let them know what activities have been activated and must be done in order to have them work thoroughly, and in order to not have too many activities on the last day of the unit, since we have to do, as I mentioned, a quiz at the end of every unit. So that's why for this unit, I decided to not activate the entire unit, but rather each sentence, each activity at a time. Okay, so the passive is done. Now that this grammatical formula has been explained, let me just quickly go over the unit summary. Okay, so we have the videos and we know we have to watch them. We have to watch them, make predictions, deductions, contextualize ourselves, pick up specific phrases, words, okay? And well, here is something special. Learn more about body language and other cultural aspects, okay? So body language is very important. I've always mention it's not what you say, but how you say it, okay? Sometimes our body expression expresses more than the actual words, okay? And if we can dominate our body language, then we can become stronger, communicative, social people, okay? What I mean by that is that I believe that there is a science, there are classes in which actors, especially actors and political people would attend in order to have not possession, but have control over any situation when it comes to when it comes to when it comes to a social meeting. So this is very powerful. This is a tool that, in fact, I found a good video and I decided to play it, share it with you. Okay, so at the end of the class, or at the end of the day, you can decide whether to use these strategies or at least know about them. That way, you can understand how these socialization aspects are so important, not only linguistically, but also in a psychological manner. So let's watch this video. I hope you enjoy it and familiarize yourself with this manner.
Tom Cruise is known as one of the most charismatic celebrities in Hollywood. When Rolling Stone writer and author Neil Strauss met him, he described him as the perfect specimen, who has a natural ability to remain dominant in any social situation without seeming to exert any effort. And as amazing as that sounds, that kind of superhuman charisma does have a dangerous downside. And it's both of those things that we're going to explore in this video. The specific behaviors that make Tom Cruise such a dominant social force, and the potential cost of being so charismatic. Let's begin with the charismatic habits. First off, Tom Cruise commands the physical space around him. He spreads out over podiums and kicks his feet up on couches, and he's got no problem touching objects that most people feel belong to someone else.
Going from the airplane, and it was also cold in the airplane, so it was freezing up there when I was doing it, and I'm wearing a suit like, you know, Cary Grant, North by Northwest.
So you're not wearing a North Face jacket?
No,
like
I'm not wearing a North Face jacket and everything. I was like, man, it's cold.
Tom is also very comfortable touching the people around him.
How are you?
Good, darling. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You look real good.
So do you.
I got a little crush on you. You don't mind it, do you?
No.
No.
It was worth the trip. Thank you. Really, thank you.
This was worth the trip. Oh my God.
This kind of touching can be called physical expansion, and it's a subtle way of claiming territory. When we touch something, we sub-communicate, I have implicit permission to do this. It's why you might feel uncomfortable when entering someone else's house for the first time, or even on a first date. You're not yet sure if touching is appropriate. Tom Cruise, though, quickly sorts that out by touching the people and the objects around him, though it's important to note that he does it in a non-aggressive way. He's not taking your desk or manhandling you, he's simply resting his hand on the desk or giving you a hug. And he does it with a huge, genuine smile on his face, which is more likely to be perceived as a friendly kind of dominance. In fact, he smiles hugely all the time.
You played hockey, right?
Yeah, I used to live in Canada for a little bit, so I played ice hockey. You got Canadians here?
Yeah, they've...
Tom has all the hallmarks of a genuine smile, and this is key, because if he simply showed his teeth while touching as often as he does, it would feel very aggressive. Now, I've reviewed this in other videos, but in terms of those signs of a genuine smile, there are 3 key points. First, he has that wide grin that goes back instead of up. Second, a relaxed lower jaw that creates space between his teeth. And third, tension that creates a narrowing of the eyes. All 3 of these line up to make us feel that genuine smile, which becomes infectious. I'm going to link to the other video that discusses this at length if you're interested. But if you combine all of this with the physical expansion, you get someone who is taking command of a room, but in a way that doesn't create resistance. It's a very powerful combo. But it's not just the smile that makes Tom come across as so likable. When he's speaking to someone, he's very likely to refer to them by name repeatedly. Just watch.
Look, Matt, I'm living my life. I'm just living my life, Matt. I have never worried, Matt, about what other people think. In life, when it just happens, Matt. Isn't that enough? Matt, you have to understand this.
I've previously mentioned repeating someone's name as a good tool to remember that name, But saying someone's name in conversation also personalizes what you're saying to them. It grabs their attention because when we hear our own name, we immediately perk up. You can use this when telling longer stories to keep people hooked the whole time, and also to let them know that you've taken the time to remember their name in the first place, which is not all that common nowadays. But it's not just those names that keep people hooked on what Tom is saying. He has a very particular way of engaging people with his eye contact. Watch how he pauses what he says, but does not pause the eye contact.
So it is it does seem like a different guy.
Yeah, but it's still, they're still writing it. You gotta understand, all that stuff was, they'd still write it. They'd still talk about it.
Not even your own faith. I find that appalling when people who don't know what they're talking about say things like that.
These little pauses are times when most people would normally check out from listening to what you're saying. After all, you've stopped speaking and basically let them go. But Tom Cruise doesn't let go. He keeps you paying rapt attention with the intensity of his gaze. And because you're paying rapt attention to essentially silence, you get more drawn in to what he says next. He'll also lean in when he's speaking, which creates the same effect of demanding your attention non-verbally.
Movies are films that I tease him because I say, I know your movie's better than you. You're a father. Sure. I'm a father. I always wanted to be a father. Remember when you first held your child, was like, wow. And psychiatric abuses of electric shocking. Shocking people, okay, against their will, of drugging children with them not knowing the effects of these drugs. Do you know what Adderall is? Do you know Ritalin?
This highlights a key charisma point that permeates everything Tom Cruise does: strong subcommunication. Now, subcommunication is basically what the nonverbal cues in any interaction are saying, and oftentimes the subcommunication is weak and will betray a person's true feelings, the same way a nervous speaker undercuts their message with a quivering voice. Essentially, they're saying, I don't feel comfortable. But in Tom's case, every single subcommunication is saying, this is important for you to hear. This allows him to slow down his speaking cadence and really get people drawn into what he's saying. Another important subcommunication has to do with voice tonality. Tom has a very decisive tone when he speaks. Listen to the downward inflection as he speaks about his feelings in this next clip.
I think I feel, how I feel? I feel privileged. That's how I feel. I feel I live a privileged life.
Note that he doesn't say, I live a privileged life, which has a more humble and less commanding connotation. Now, there are certainly times where you're going to want to use that upward inflection, for instance, questions, but I'll leave all of that discussion for another video because it can get kind of complex. Suffice to say that Tom Cruise's heavy use of that downward inflection at the end of his sentences makes him sound committed to the things that he says. And again, his subcommunication is, I stand behind what I am saying 100%, regardless of what you may think. His word choice reflects that same idea. In fact, absolutely appears to be one of his favorite words.
Is there a belief in God or a higher power?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Would you say that this is the script that changed the trajectory of your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Add all of this up and you have one of the most congruent, charismatic personalities that I've ever covered on this channel. Tom Cruise appears to have no self-doubt. He is convinced that he is right. And that is his power, but also the dangerous side. Because when you're convinced that you're right, you forfeit the ability to change your views. Sure, it helps you with ignoring the haters and the naysayers, but it also makes you ignore valuable negative feedback. And I struggled with how to present this, because as someone who loves philosophy, one of the tenets is always being open to revising and changing your beliefs. But when it comes to charisma, being convinced of your beliefs is what creates power. In fact, rather than gather factual evidence, many people just make up their mind about an issue by judging which side has the most conviction. And Tom Cruise certainly has conviction. Just listen.
I think it's appalling. I think it's appalling that they're still burning synagogues in France. I think it's appalling how certain Muslims are being treated. I think it's absolutely appalling when we talk about freedom of speech and human rights. I think it's appalling that they electric shock people. I think it's appalling that they drug children.
So what do? On the one hand, you want to be open to revising your beliefs, so you need to have some doubt. On the other hand, steadfast conviction is a huge piece of being charismatic and a persuasive individual. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have a short answer for resolving this contradiction. For the purposes of this video, though, two things are clear. First, Tom Cruise's conviction and charisma have been massive contributors to his success. And second, they were also a massive contributor to his public implosion a few years ago, as he seemingly lost the ability to consider how he was appearing from other people's perspective.
Being a Scientologist, when you drive past an accident, it's not like anyone else. As you drive past, you know you have to do something about it because you know you're the only one that can really help.
You ever felt this way? Once told 17 magazine. Yes!
¿Sabías que muchas de tus amigas
Here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do.
That said, in his recent interviews, Tom seems to have mellowed quite a bit, while retaining a different kind of charisma. And if you want, I can make another video about that and dive further into the problem of philosophical self-doubt versus charismatic conviction. For now, though, play with those sub-communications. See how adjusting your body language, your eye contact, and your tonality affects the responses from the people around you. It can be alarming to see just how much of communication is occurring under the surface. Also, I've got some very cool stuff to mention before closing this out. First is that with the release of Game of Thrones Season 7, which I cannot wait, I'm going to be doing more character breakdowns. So let me know in the comments if there's a character that you would like to see covered. Sub-communications.
Okay, so that was the sub-communication abilities that you can develop in social meetings. Okay, so remember, if you choose to use these cues, non-verbal cues, then remember that there is also a negative side of it. Okay. Other than that, well, let's continue with the unit summary. Okay, so that was a video about body language, which I found it interesting, powerful, okay? And remember, it's not what you say, but how you say it. So now you know if you can apply it, or at least identify when a person is trying all of these techniques to basically persuade or be a powerful social speaker. Then now let's continue with the vocabulary. Let's see what phrases are we going to learn. So learn the meaning and usage of these phrases with line. Along the same lines, be out of line, down the line, drop someone a line, get a line on something, give someone a line, lay it on the line, read between the lines, take a hard line, the bottom line. Okay, so we will go over that on the vocabulary section. Speaking, well, learn expressions you can use to ask about problems, talk about problems, suggest a solution. For the first one, to ask about a problem, we can ask, what's the matter? What's the matter with John? What's the matter with the class? What's the matter with the restaurant, etc.? To talk about problems, I'm worried about a person, a situation, a thing, okay? Suggest a solution. Maybe you could, maybe you should, okay? Maybe you could get some help from Amy. Respond to a suggested solution. That's a great idea. I agree. That's great. On the grammar section, we will learn to express yourself using the passive, which has been explained. The recording was edited, okay? And if you want to add who did it, then try to use it with by, okay? The recording was edited by El Chombo, for example. Quantifiers, which is, we will go over this as a group on Monday. I think this is very important to identify the quantifiers when using it with food items, for example, if it's countable or non-countable. So that's very important. So a lot of, a few, a little, many, much, okay? Nick has a lot of friends on the team. So here we are not using it with food items, but with whatever it is that we want to use it. So the noun is in plural. Verb, gerund, or verb plus infinitive. Okay, so for this, how can we call it? Grammar. I like to call it a grammar formula. Okay, so we have a verb, a gerund or verb, and infinitive. For example, Patty remembers seeing Dean yesterday. So we have two verbs, remembered, seeing. Okay, so this formula will give you those kind of tips that will make you a better speaker, a more fluent English speaker, okay? Patty remembers seeing, or Patty remembered to see. That was an example that I went over one of your classmates yesterday on the conversation class. So Patty remembers seeing Dean yesterday. Amy remembered to see Patty at the health club, okay? So what's the difference? Task listening, listen to the guidelines, give to new customer service representatives at their job orientation. Put the information into the correct place in a chart, okay? So that's the task listening. Pronunciation, phonetics. Practice your pronunciation of following intonations for statements and WH questions. I need to see you. What's going on? Unstressed words is, was. This is amazing. Nick was tricked. Okay. Reading, we have an article about IQ, intelligence quotient, and EQ, emotional quotient at work. So this is going to be quite interesting next week, of course. On the web, research successful people. Write a short biography or a successful person and draw conclusions about the person. So perhaps you can take into account today's video about Tom Cruise non-verbal expressions and how he uses them to be and influence to its followers, okay? So that's basically it. What else can the teacher explain? Well, I will try not to cover a lot of content since I would like you to be present, but those are the learning objectives and unit summary, okay? So vocabulary, as I mentioned, vocabulary using the word line, bottom line, over the line, okay? So let me show you and explain. All right, so here, as you can see, in the video, Tony talks about the bottom line, okay? The box below contains phrases using line. Click on the light bulb icon to see the meaning of these expressions. So, number one, along the same lines, that's an idiom, okay? 1 second, please. Okay, so number one, along the same lines, it's an idiom. All of these are idioms. So what's the meaning? Something that is similar to what another person is talking about, along the same lines. Everyone had such a great time at your party last month that we decided to do something along the same lines for our party, okay? Something that is similar to what another person is talking about. So that's number one. Number two, be out of line. Okay, that's an easy one. Behave badly or in a way that is not acceptable in a particular situation. She was out of line to yell at poor Antonio when he made a mistake. So that was out of line. Down the line, maybe later. Okay, so at a future time, maybe 5 years down the line, I'll start my own business. Now let's continue with drop someone a line. That sounds like sending a message. So it states that this means that to write and send a short letter to someone. Please drop me a line when you get back, okay? Good. Get a line on something. Get a line on something is to get information about someone or something so you can understand it or them better. I'm trying, for example, this is the example, I'm trying to get a line on the hotels in Rome before we go there for our vacation. Okay, so now that the ice cream man is gone with his noise, let me continue. All right, so next we have give someone a line. It's to tell someone something that isn't true so they will do what you want. Give someone a line to persuade. The salesman gave us a line about how perfect his product was. To tell someone something that isn't true. So that wasn't true. Good. Lay it on the line. Lay it on the line. To tell someone the truth in a very direct way. 1 second, please. All right, let's continue. Lay it on the line. To tell someone the truth in a very direct way. Our teacher laid it on the line and said we wouldn't pass the course if we didn't study harder. Okay? Next, read between the lines. This is an idiom that I like to use. So what's the meaning? Read between the lines. To be able to understand the full meaning of something, even though you have not been given all the details. He said he was happy with his job, but reading between the lines, I could tell that something was wrong, okay? Next, take a hard line. To be determined to make people behave in the way that you want and unwilling to change your opinions, often used in business and politics. For example, since Floreta became principal, she has taken a hard line with the teachers. Now they really have to work, okay? To take a hard line, to be determined to make people behave in certain way. Last one, the bottom line, okay? Used to tell someone what you think the most important part of a situation is. This idiom comes from business accounts in which the bottom line is the final line that shows how much profit a company has made or how much money was lost. The bottom line is that we have to finish the report by Friday afternoon. Okay, so that was the vocabulary help. With that being said, I believe that you can now do the 3 activities. As you can see, it's really, really easy. It's basically giving the correct meaning. The bottom line, down the line, drop someone a line, get a line on something, give someone a line, okay? The bottom line, what matters most, okay, and so on. So try to do these activities. How many activities are there for these phrases with line? I believe, as you can see, there are 3. 1, 2, 3. So far we have vocabulary and all the passive activities. As I mentioned, we are going to do this as a group on Monday. The last 2 grammar explanations. So I believe for the moment, this should be all. So let me take a snapshot, share, and try to work whenever you can. The due date will be next week. So I will send these activities. That way you can work on them and you'll see the due date. I'll make it next week, as I mentioned, but try to work try to work daily. That way the activities won't, so that way you won't stay behind. So for this unit, remember for our first unit, we were only able to do it 2 times. If I had a 50% on my first try, then I would only have another chance to improve my grade. So be careful, okay? So only 2 times. There is no timer. Okay, and for this in this case, you will be able to see the answers after the 2 first attempts. Capitalization is on and punctuation is on. Okay, I forgot this one, so let me. So now that's all we have to do. Okay, so feel free to start today or work on the weekend. So I will take a snapshot about this. This is the only thing that has been activated. And that would be all for today's class. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can always, remember, you can always send me a private message. So with that being said, thank you very much. I'll see you on Monday.